Thank you for joining Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 85. I'm your host, Greg Gallup. Today we've got Luff, Jeremy, John, Dennis, Neil, Wayne, Gary, Jim, Courtney, Garth, and more people, and Mike. And we're going to have some fun talking about slot cars. Does anybody have anything they want to show and or tell about? If you do, raise your hand or your virtual hand, and I'll try to call on you. Jim has his virtual hand up, and then we'll get to Garth. What's going on, Jim?
I think I've been on here 6 or 7 times, so it's been a lot of fun. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, because the YouTube channel that I've created in June just went over 1,000 subscribers yesterday.
Woohoo!
So
Awesome.
Everybody out there, and specifically those of you on this channel, because I know a lot of you look at the videos, and hopefully I've got great things planned. I just bought a new camera today, so.
Hey, awesome. Yeah, you've been putting out great stuff. So, you know, apart from whatever we might have done, it's you, dude.
It hurt me greatly, though, after working for Canon as a camera rep for 38 years.
Would you buy a Nikon or a Sony?
Yeah, I bought a Sony today. I still have my Canon, my real camera that I shoot the real racing with, or full size racing with. But I bought a Sony vlogging camera because it has features that just nothing else out there has.
Yeah.
Sony is listening to people. And as much as I like Canon, they just, a lot of times they didn't do that. So again, thank you very much. I'm working on some new stuff. The highest seen video that I have was the interview with Brad Bowman from Brad's Tracks, HO Slot Car Builder. That's over 5,000 views in less than a month. So nice. I'm definitely going to be working on interviews with people that I know, because I've been in the slot car industry quite a bit as well as a hobby. So I knew quite a few people that I think would be interesting for people to hear their story. And so that's where I'm taking it. So again, thank you very much. Good.
Awesome. Looking forward to that stuff. And, you know, toss your link in the chat and I'll be sure and put it in the video description again. I'm always happy to do that. So thank you again for sharing that progress, Jim, and looking forward to your new content. And Garth, you are next, sir. What is up with you today?
I got a show and tell. Okay.
Awesome.
This one's for No Mag Mike. You see that okay? Or
not yet.
Okay.
Who's just raced two magless races.
Awesome. Gonna hear about that during Club Corner, I hope.
Yep.
Got that?
Now we can see it.
Okay. This is my latest No Mag car. Okay. And you can see it's a Ferrari 312. Okay. And just a quick summary of what's going on here. I got some Formula One CB design wheels, 14.5 diameter, 12 in the back and 8 in the front. Stock slotted wheels. Okay, I got a 1 millimeter pod, slot-dotted pod, and a 27 or a 29K slot-dotted motor. And here you can see I got a big chunk of steel. I think it's like a 1/4 inch steel wrapped around the body post, and a little piece of lead out here. Okay. And the gear is a 36 spur with 11 pinion, so that's 3.27, which is totally different than anything I've got. All right, next photo. Here's another shot of the top of it. Okay. And one thing that to get these wheels in there, I had to carve the body out a little bit. Okay. It's one of my older Ferrari bodies, so I didn't mind so much. This is the bottom of it. Okay, you see the pod and the type of motor that's in there. And that's the car on the track. And you can see this car is so beautifully low. Okay. But it runs like it's a dream to drive. It's beautiful. Okay. And I'm not a No Mag guy, but you know, it's almost like a No Mag car. Okay, that's how nice it is. Okay, so I wanted to show it mainly to No Mag Mike, because I know he's got.
How much does it weigh?
It weighs a ton. No, but you know what? It broke my No Mag track record on the first lap, I would throw it. Okay, I mean, it is so much fun to drive. Okay, and it's heavy. Okay, because of the weights I got in the front and the wheels on the back and everything. But it's just it makes me want to. And tomorrow night is our club corner night, so I'm going to have my friend race it, and if he likes it, I'm going to build another one. So I have two of them. So,
Cool.
anyways, that's my show and tell.
Awesome. Good job.
You might want to try one thing yet, and that is to screw the motor in. You have the chance to do that. Two little M2 screws through the pod into the can, and I'd be interested to see how much smoother you think the car is when you're done.
Well,
Because every one that I've done has come out much better for having the screws in.
boy,
You can actually have the motor jump out if you don't have it screwed in or glued in.
never had that experience, but in a Sidewinder pod, but I'll try that. But at first, I want to race it the way it is now because I don't have a lot of time on it. So I'll do the good try. Is good. Good amount of laps first, and then I mean it's just so nice now. I can't imagine it being better, Dennis. So
Okay, you can use just one screw, but put it at the back in between the gear and the motor.
oh, okay.
That's really the place to stiffen up the chassis.
Just looking at your pictures, Garth, the new set of braids would probably help as well. That'll probably gain you a couple of tenths.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
New braids.
The pickup braids.
Yeah. Actually though that that was a pretty scrummy braid on there. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's been changed a little bit. Okay, so that car was kind of I guess it still is sort of an experiment, so
I know
it's a wonderful experiment because it's just so nice to drive. Okay, I mean it's
Are those silicone tires on it too?
yes, that's all I use is silicone on my tracks.
Yeah.
Everything has silicone. Okay.
What were you gonna say, Wayne?
I was going to say he's pushed the rear wheels quite wide. I mean, I know that's the nature of the wheels, but you've not moved the fronts out. I thought you would have moved the fronts out to be in line with the arches or very close.
They're out as far as they can go
Right
without,
inside the body shop.
interfering with the body. Okay, and
Oh.
because I got they're Formula One wheels, they call them. Okay, but it's the same exact diameter as what's on that car. Okay, that car has 14.5 inch diameter wheels on it. Okay, which makes it kind of weird anyway. So, but I pushed it way out, and I did a lot of tuning on the front of the car. And the car is the thing that amazes me about it so much is that, and I'm not a nomad guy, so that this is a good thing, I guess. But it's so low, yet it's not scraping low. Okay, you know what I mean? It's just really beautifully driving low, I guess would be the explanation. It's almost like it turned the track into a wood track almost, sort of, with the way it runs, so.
Sounds like you got the front end set up nicely.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of goofing with it. I just kept goofing with it, goofing it. It's an ongoing experiment.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Garth. And Jeremy, you're next. What's up?
Okay. Remember I was working on LED stuff last week. So on this one, I could probably actually use your guys' opinions and help. So I started making a little race tower. I was going to plant it on my table. And let me quickly start a race. It's only like a 30-second race here. So the sides kind of tell you, like, can you guys see that or not? Should I turn the light off?
Yeah, turn the light off. It's,
Okay, let me turn the light off real quick. That's right here. Okay, there.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. These cameras are terrible for this. So anyway, on the sides would be red. Let me get she's calling yellow lights there, and it goes up like a tree. And then the center section, yeah, I'm gonna have to do this on a video, aren't I? This is terrible. Anyway, the center section, as it counts down, there's a 30-second race. The LEDs will kind of go out until you're like 5 seconds left, and then the last one goes out. The race is over. So then when you pause the race, then you get yellow flags. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I just don't have a good way to make a tower. I don't know. mean, this tower would look kind of stupid on the racetrack. I couldn't think of anything that would go on a racetrack that I could still 3D print and then put the lights into. So,
I mean, you
if
could
you guys have any ideas?
You could
That'd be
probably
great.
do it in that Dunlop, lap count tower that you printed one of those. You could probably do it like on the, reprint the corners instead of having it black, and then just like let it shine through the white main frame. It depends on what colors and material you use or if you printed the base, with the where the door is, if you printed that in white, it might shine through, or you could drill holes in it.
Have you thought about building it more like a horizontal, sort of like L-shaped, where the lights are across the top of your track, and then there's a base that's holding it up? That might look a little more realistic, because there are always caution lights on a track. Even a Formula One track, they have these sort of caution things that sort of stick out in an L shape. So yours might be a little bit more elongated, but it might be a little more realistic, just as a suggestion.
Yeah, maybe. I was just hoping so we could think of like a building or something, but maybe the Dunlop
There
building.
is-
The Dunlop building's huge, so
No, there's a shell tower. Did you see the
Mhm.
shell? It's just an advertisement tower with the Shell logo on the top and then the word Shell on the 4 sides. It's just a straight tall tower. You could modify, however many sides of that you needed to hold the lights in, and then it would look both decorative and functional. And
And to your point, Greg, I mean, the tower at Indy is actually vertical, right? Where they show the placement of the cars by place and then by car number.
yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
all right, yeah, I'll take a look at
I mean, it
a few of
wouldn't-
those
Can,
things.
wouldn't
can I
look-
ask? Sorry.
It wouldn't look out of place. I mean, you could just make a taller version of what you just showed,
Yeah.
and it would, it'd be fine.
Now, Jeremy, it looks like you're having a ball with those LEDs.
Yeah.
Now, when the race ends on your track, does it also cut the power at the same time, so you can see where everybody is?
Yeah, I have the 4 relays set to 4 different buttons to 4 different sensors. So whoever comes in first cuts power, and they end first, and then second, third, fourth. Yeah. So that's the way to go. I really like that. The other guys that have tracks in my area kind of see, oh, that is better. So it's just because the cars are always right in front of the starting area. You don't got to have another guy who's going around still, and you got to go find the car, and that just kind of isn't as
Put
a
your light
pain.
back on.
Oh, how dare you? Nobody wants to see me.
Yeah, it's nice. So basically, everybody comes back around, and their power.
Yeah, they always
after
drive
they
around,
finish.
and then it takes time away from you. You're like, your car should just be here. Get off the track. Let the next people go, because
Well, yeah, you let them finish their lap. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, they absolutely get to finish their lap, but the power dies right where they started. So
Yeah, as opposed to when the power cuts.
there's
When the
always those
first guy
guys who kind of
finishes, and then there's got cars
Yeah.
all over the place.
there's cars all over. There's guys pedaling around, and you're just like, we're trying to race six different races here, guys. Let's go.
Yep.
So
Well, we look forward to seeing what you put those lights in. All right, Dewan, you're next. What's up?
Jeremy, before you go to that, so what are you using for your race management again?
race coordinator.
Race coordinator, okay. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
actually installed that last night. I was going to try it out. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay. And it manages all that for you.
It does. If you have an Arduino, do you have one yet? You
No.
can get an Arduino for maybe 10, 20 bucks. It's like a little computer. The important thing to do with that is in the settings, when you're setting up the Arduino, make sure that you turn off all the options. There's like, it'll say pin 7 is set for timer 1. Just turn off everything. Otherwise it throws an error to your computer. And I think I spent a week trying to figure out why it wouldn't work. And then I turned off all the inputs, and it didn't work right. I was like, damn it. I lost a week screwing with this. So turn it all off, and then turn the one you have plugged into test, and then go from there.
All right. Looks like my dog is barking. I'm gonna let Michael or let one of the other guys go ahead and
Okay.
after that.
All right, we'll come back to you, Dewan.
I gotta
What do you
grab
got?
my dog.
What do you got to share and show, Mike?
Okay, I don't remember if I showed you guys this or not last week.
I think you did.
Well, that's the third one of the triad of thunder slots.
Yeah.
And we raced all 3 of those on Monday, and it was good fun. So I'll go to Club Corner with the rest of the story of that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess it's your turn, Wayne. You want to talk about the Petit Le Mans? Or is that reserved for Club Corner? You got something to show and tell today?
Yeah, I was going to save that till Club Corner.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
good.
actually going to show you something I've discovered that's technical this week, and it involves a small video that I've got. So if it's okay to share.
Is it a YouTube video?
No, it's on my computer. Can you see my wheel?
Okay, so you're doing the balancing thing?
Yeah, I've got one of those balancing devices, and this is what I discovered about an alloy wheel this week.
So it's going to be real, yeah, it's real choppy.
Oh, you can't see that the grub screw is heavy and falling to the bottom then?
It does look like that's what's happening, yeah.
It's supposed to though, right? That's
And
where
well, I can
the
confirm
weight
that-
is.
That kind of makes sense.
Yes, and so the next picture is what I did about it.
Tire weight, wheel weight.
A wheel weight, yeah. And I scraped some paint off the wheel and stuck it over there. And I made myself a much more better balanced wheel. And I also have, I don't know if this is going to get, it might take a moment to play, but I also have a wheel and tire that's been raced.
Yeah, you don't have
hasn't
enough
been
bandwidth.
removed from the
You don't-
wheel.
You don't have enough
Regular.
bandwidth to
Exactly
do
the
it.
same thing.
Wayne, stop for a sec. You don't have enough bandwidth to talk and have your video and play a video. So you're gonna have to do one at a time.
Okay, so what the last one was a raced wheel and tire, which had been run for several hours, and even though the thing was trued by the fact that it had been raced, it was still doing exactly the same thing with exactly the grub screw at the weightiest point. So I made myself some experimental wheels, took them to a race at the weekend, and I'm not sure how they benefited us, if they benefited us at all. But they're still on the car, so I haven't taken them off the car to repeat the process and see whether they got any difference. But that's what I'm. In fact, I can probably do that during the chat and find out.
Yeah,
what
I've got a
happened.
question, Wayne. I'm doing a little wheel design right at the moment. And on my wheel, I put two grub screws opposite each other. Just thinking about what the problem you're describing. You think that is worthy? Having, so you could put.
I
grub
I
screws
do.
on one side? You do?
I think it's track specific, and if you're going to go to top speed on your track, then I think anything that revs very high is worth balancing. And if you're going to go to top speed, then it's going to be beneficial. And the faster your car goes, the more beneficial it gets.
But that's balance. Then you have to worry about the engineering of putting two diametrically opposed set screws into one wheel that are both now
That's
clamping up onto an axle. Not a good
No.
idea.
in that case, I would always work with one and then
So-
just
so-
lightly knit the opposite one.
Correct.
So Dennis, you're saying that it's not worthy to
It's not a
worth
good,
doing?
it's just not good practice to put two grub screws diametrically opposed to one another like that, because you're now starting to drive completely off the grub screws. The reason for the set screw is to push the rest of the axle up against the inside of the wheel. So if you tighten both of those screws, the only pieces that are really contacting properly are the two tips of the set screws, and you may not get it round. If there's any play in that wheel between the wheel and the axle, it's going to wobble.
So you do
Hey.
you do one set screw tightly and then the other set screw back.
If you're
up
going
a
to
little
use
bit.
another one for balance, yes, then you just have to do it
Okay,
very,
so-
very.
So
Yeah.
in other words, if I had you at a race, Dennis.
Yeah.
And I gave you the choice, I'm gonna give you a wheel with one grub screw or a wheel with two opposed grub screws. Okay, which one would you take?
I'd take the one with one grub screw.
Okay,
Even
Choose one of those Dennis, as well.
that basically.
rather than just having one loose scrub screw.
Because the loose grub screw will fall out somewhere.
Yeah, but what if you use Loctite in it?
You can say you
Oh,
can
yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's-
okay.
So
All right.
Wayne, when I built mine, what I did on the grub screw is I just took it on my Dremel and shaved it down and then put it
Yeah.
back in. And I kept doing that until I got, you still want to have bite on it. Then also here they sell aluminum metal tape for duct work. And I
Yeah.
just took that metal tape because it seems like a big chunk of lead is bound to be a
It's
little
not a
fiddly.
big chunk of lead.
That was
No,
It
no,
was-
no.
it was enough
But I'm
to-
just saying that the tape is so
balance.
much thinner than an actual, piece of lead.
Yeah.
If you guys go and look at James Clee's YouTube channel, he has a whole thing about balancing wheels. And the very first thing that he does is, first of all, he uses hollow grub screws. And secondly, he then grinds them down until they're smaller, until you can actually balance the hub completely.
I'm fearful of losing the ability to drive the grub screw, and if I shorten the grub screw, and it's incredibly difficult to hold. So I haven't tried shortening the grub screw. It would be the preferable way to do it. There
I
are.
did it with
I have got
NSR grub
some
screws, which are a little bigger,
Yeah,
a little fatter.
that's exactly what you were looking at. An
Well,
NSR
yeah,
wheel
you're
with
talking
an
about
NSR grub
NSR. I
screw.
mean, I wouldn't bother with any of this on the 2mm, the 2mm grub screws in slotted wheels or other wheels.
Okay,
They're just too small.
okay.
And the amount of weight that you're talking about is absolutely
Minuscule. Yeah.
Greg,
Yeah.
can I show a photo?
Yeah, go ahead.
negligibly small.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Your four spoke.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see, I got, you can see how I got,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing, but now you guys are telling me not to do this.
Oh, I would still do that. I just wouldn't put 2 grub screws in.
I would do it.
Oh, okay, see, I got it. Oh, I got you. So
What's
just-
the point of having a grub screw in one hole and a hole opposite? That's lightning apposite the grub screw.
Yeah,
Surely
I'm
it
talking about, yeah. Now, quite honestly, you're right about that. But the point about having 2 holes is that when you first strip out the first one, you at least can use the wheel again
Yep.
by putting the set screw in the other side. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of manufacturers do that.
I've got gears with 2 grub screws in that come from the
Mhm.
factory like that. So it's nothing new. It's a done thing. And I do use a grub screw in both holes, but I do fit the thing with 1 grub screw, and then the other one is Loctited just into place to be a balancer.
So it's worthy to have the tapped holes then.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
thank you.
Yep. For multiple reasons.
Those look very nice. They
Yeah.
they'd be nice on a Can-Am McLaren. Those four folks like that.
Yeah,
Look really good. Good
if it
job.
goes right, I'm gonna have a whole series of them.
Ah, interesting.
So we'll look forward to information on that when you get closer to that point in time.
New
Remember
business.
remember I was telling you, Greg, that there isn't enough wheels out there for me?
Yeah. And when you can't find what you need, you can go ahead and make it.
That's right.
All right. Are you done, Wayne? Did you have anything else you wanted to?
Not for the moment.
All righty. Dewan, you ready to go?
You sorted your dog out.
Yes. Part of the doggo. I have ready for delivery this week.
Okay, I love that box. I love that box.
Can you see it?
Ravel at
Oh yeah, an Atlantica. Oh my gosh, what a
Did you
set!
just print that box? It looks brand new.
Yeah.
Right. It's a nice set. I actually have three of these. I have about 6 of the Gran Turismos and 3 of the Pan Pacificas and 2 not Pan Pacific, Pan Americas and 2 Americanas. Pan Americanas and 2 Americanas. So
I can't tell you the number of hours I drooled over those Revell ads and like Model Car Science and oh my gosh.
So this is going to an associate of mine that did a lot of work, and I told him my new hobby and everything, and he got so super excited about it. He says, "Well, I'm going to go out and find me a speed racer slot car." And so he never, he was just kidding, but I'm going to be giving this to him for the holidays. And I just kind of finalized the cars.
Those look great.
yeah.
Well, this one, the Racer X one right here, is a toy that I had to literally just cannibalize like to no end. And it came in pretty, well, it came in average shape for a toy that's been out there for a little while. So, but this one is a brand new model that I worked around, and Dennis helped out with a lot of insight on the chassis that I use underneath. This was fully mounted and ready to go. This one, I'm still doing some super glue to it to get some of the body. This is literally in 3 different parts. So
Yeah, Gab.
yeah, so this one needs a lot
What?
more.
Yeah, what's up?
It's almost ready to go.
Those look fantastic.
I'm giving 2 Revell cars, old vintage Revell cars, and these 2 cars, and then he can go out and buy the rest of the stuff his own.
He can go spend his own dang money on cars after that.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
and I have, like I said, I have about another 6 of the other sets that I'll be putting together, and it's been cleaned up really, really nicely. To me, it's better than factory.
Well, I'm
That's
sure he's
awesome.
going to have a Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Awesome.
and the other thing was I didn't take pictures of it, but I did have we had Thanksgiving holiday down in my home in Los Angeles, and had a big family gathering and everything. And I decided to set up a nice little 4-laner in the garage there. So I now have a 4-laner down there, just pretty size garage. I add on to that.
But you did not get pictures of it?
I didn't take pictures of it. I don't know.
Oh, no.
So I'll do that next time I go down.
Shame.
But I got a lot of enthusiastic relatives that are now, got their eyes buck-eyed over it.
Well, that's the important part.
Absolutely. Okay, great.
All
When do
right.
you start working on your timer and stuff for your track? Have you got that going?
Well, I just installed Race Coordinator
Okay.
last night, and I'm gonna try that because I've been using TrackMate all along.
Okay.
And I don't have anything down in LA, so I have to put another whole system down there.
Do you still have the TrackMate wiring and all that?
Oh yeah,
because that should work with Race Coordinator. It's got an option.
That's what I was anticipating.
Okay,
Yeah, I was anticipating that to work, but I need to do a second one down in LA for that little system and put down there. It's only gonna be temporary. I'm only gonna have it done for 3 months or something like that because I'm probably end up selling the house, and that's what I'm gearing towards now. Yeah. All right.
Well, still looking forward to that Batman layout.
That's one of the reasons why I'm selling the house down there, so I just go ahead and finish my projects up here. Just too much back and forth.
All right. Well, looking forward to that. Does anybody else have anything they want to show and tell? I got a quick one. Let me make sure I've got the picture loaded here. Here we go. That's what you're getting in the mail, Garth. So you should be seeing the motor spacers. These are the one-piece motor spacers for the FC into the FK pod. You can see they're not very pretty, but hopefully they're functional. I printed them in ABS because I know that Garth likes fast motors, and I thought maybe his motors might get warm, and you wouldn't want a PLA spacer to soften while you're racing the car around. So he's getting some extra because I was not happy with the quality of the prints. So he'll have some to fiddle with. If for any reason, and I just remembered this earlier today, probably one of the main reasons those aren't very pretty is because ABS shrinks quite a bit as compared to other materials. And I forgot to compensate for that when I was setting up the print. So I printed them at 100% scale when you need to compensate by printing the object at like 101% because it'll actually shrink, a measurable amount. So hopefully those actually will be able to be made to be fit into the cars. If not, just let me know and
they don't have to be pretty. All they got to do is fit.
That's kind of what I was hoping. Is pretty is no big deal. But if you can't, if doing a little scraping doesn't get them to fit, then, just trash them and I'll send you some other ones. And hopefully the next ones they'll fit better and maybe look a little prettier too. Neil, you've got your hand up. What's going on?
Funny you should, your little show and tell. Mine is, because I wanted to ask you a question, if you could print something for me. I'm doing my very first um,
Chassis.
Brass chassis.
build. Yeah. And
Cool.
see those little blocks?
Yeah.
Nice.
What are they?
There's ceramic blocks that I'm using as my, my
Your height.
for my jig.
Jig wheels.
Yeah. Jig.
Jig wheels. But I can't find them anywhere. Everything is for like drag racing or, they're very huge. These are 15 millimeter high with a hole in the side. But I was thinking if you could just print.
You're freezing up, Neil. Neil froze. Hopefully it's not me.
Doesn't Precision Slot Cars got blocks?
I was
I'm
gonna say,
looking,
sure.
I'm looking on their website right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
there's-
back. So, the wheels, if you could print a wheel, right? And with a grub screw in it, just like a regular wheel, but at 15 millimeters tall.
I mean, yeah, but I think there's better products out there for that purpose. I mean, if I were to
haven't
print
been
you
able to
anything,
find any. If Dennis knows where I can get those
Isn't
setup
15
blocks.
Isn't 15 millimeters extremely small?
Yeah, because where you're building, the 15 millimeters is so that the axle is 7.5 millimeters above the bottom of the chassis. And then the size of the overall size of your wheel is then going to determine how much clearance you have.
Exactly. So when I'm building the chassis, I'm building it flat.
Yeah, on the plate.
if I were to print anything, I'm pretty sure this is what Dennis is looking for anyways, but you basically get a set of square wheels like what you're using, except each side is a slightly different offset from the center. So you put the
Correct.
diameter down that you want to use, and you
Correct.
get 2 or 3 sets of those with, and you've got, 16 or 24 or, however many number of different.
Can I share my
offsets.
screen?
Yes, please.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those come from Precision Slot Cars. You'll find them on pslotcar.com.
Do they make them with metric numbers on?
Do not think so.
Now there is another alternative as well, and this is, I know, I guess the cheaper solution, or in my case, the backward solution, but it works just as well. If I can just share my screen for a moment.
Yep.
I made my own spacers using square brass tubing.
Oh.
Yeah, built it up to the height you needed.
Correct. Yeah, so that'll work just as well. And the great thing is because they are different sizes of brass tubing, square and or round, you can build them up or down to whatever height you would prefer. And I'm kind of using the same sort of block you're using, Neil, only it's, obviously I'm a smaller guy, it's a smaller block. So, but it works just as well. And the reason I use square is because, again, it doesn't move, and it works really quite well. And that's how I built chassis for, 356s and a few other things.
Quite like how you've got a top indicated on that, John, and still managed to get it upside down.
Well, no, oh, sorry, that was for our Australian folks.
Yeah, you're right.
You're welcome, Gaza, and Big Den.
Hang
So
on, I'll
hopefully
just turn the
Pete-
video around the other way.
Hopefully, P Slot Car has the products you need, and you'll get that sorted out. I mean, like I said, I could print things like that, but there are already great products.
Yeah, if you don't want to print them, then the other way, of course, is to get someone to turn some round ones to a particular size, for which you need someone who has a lathe. And I know someone like that.
You might know somebody.
I might know somebody. Yeah. I have a whole box, one of those little plastic compartment boxes. I have a whole box of those with any number of different sizes in it that I've used over the years. And if I need a new one, I just get up and make one. Like I make these ones. That this is a.
Go ahead, rub it in, Dennis.
No, I'm just saying, if you wanted to, talk to me. I can make them. This is just a mandrel that fits onto my Hootie tire machine, so that I can take a polycar. This one's for polycar, classic Formula One. I can just put the tire on there, and true the tire, and take it off and put it on the car.
Yeah.
But the same thing for building mandrels, no problem. The only thing about circular ones is you only get one size for each set. Whereas with those square ones with the offset hole, you get four different sizes.
Yeah. 4 blocks gives you 4. You'd have to get 8 blocks or at least two wheels for every size you wanted. Whereas this thing gives you 2 blocks for 4 different sizes of thing, rather than 4 whole sets of wheels.
Correct.
Use the blocks. Yeah.
So did you guys come up with any solution for me there, Dennis?
Peacelockcar.com. I put the URL into the chat.
Oh, okay.
You found the square wheels.
Yeah, the part number is 2000. Part number 2000.
Because they are really nice, you know. It just helps, but I don't know why I only have 2.
Probably that block you got only came with 2.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But that's my first attempt. I only have that portion done. I did that last night, probably around 2 o'clock in the morning. So
can't sleep, I'll go build a chassis.
Exactly. That's what I started doing. So
well, check out that website, and if you can't find what you can't find what we're talking about, then pop back in and ask Dennis, and I'm sure Dennis would be happy to pop the URL to the actual thing that he found down in the chat at some point too.
Okay, I'll look.
We'll make sure you get there. And then, so I don't see anybody else wanting to do show and tell, so I guess we could do either if somebody has a tip of the week they'd like to share, or we could go to Club Corner and ask for a tip of the week later. So go ahead and raise your electronic hand for whatever you want to talk about. Garth, you've got your hand up first. Do you want to do a Club Corner or a tip of the week?
Club Corner.
All right. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Share the screen here.
Yep.
Got that?
I see a bunch of awesome cars.
Okay. This is I went through all of our pairs of cars and tuned them all up and cleaned them and put braids on them when they needed them, or tore them all down. And so this is what I've got. I got pairs of that. There's 5 pairs there, and the next one is 4 more pairs. Okay, and so they're all set up so we're not going to run out of cars for a Thursday night race. So that's
what's that color scheme on that 86 there? That was pretty nice on that Ferrari 312. It looked like it was blue and red. What was that? Just a custom paint job, I assume.
That's just we have 2 312s that we race against each other, and all the 312 slot dot bodies are all red, and it's almost impossible to race 2 of them next to each other because there's so I painted blue on mine because it was a secondary color to the wing, and so I just painted blue paint onto it. That's all I did, just so I could see it.
Yep. Okay. Blue lane and red lane. So might as well paint blue on the other red car to differentiate it from the red car.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all that it was. So.
Did you do anything special, or did you use like spray paint, or did you hand paint it? Or
no, actually, I did. Here, let me see if I can highlight it again.
I just found that funny because when that 312 came out, I got one, and it was the best car for the class. So then a few months later, everybody had one, and all there was red and yellow 312s driving around the track. So I had to paint mine like a Gulf racing color just to differentiate it.
Yeah.
So I thought you were doing something similar. I just wanted to see what your scheme you came up with was.
You shared your folder there. You're going to have to stop your share and share the picture.
Okay.
Here you go. I'll stop your share.
me open up. I gotta open up the folder just one second.
Open the picture.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off course.
No. I
There.
goofed it up. Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
You got that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
this is, and I'm gonna try to highlight it a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I see.
All it is,
Yeah.
see this color is the Mario Andretti car, 85. And see, it's all these 312s PBs have some secondary color, like and this one has a stripe and a color on the wing, and this one was a Ronnie Peterson car, so the helmet was blue and the back stripe or back spoiler was blue. So I just added acrylic paint onto this. Okay. And I just taped it off and it was just so I could see it. Okay. Because racing these two next to each other was, was like impossible, so.
Yeah, good idea. It looks nice.
Good stuff. So you had a maintenance day where you
Yep.
went through all those cars and made sure they were all nicely lubed up and cleaned up.
We
ready to go.
Yeah, we do 2 to 4 sort of classes. I'm sorry, 2 to 3 classes a night when we race. Okay, so if I had that means I have to have three sets of cars ready to go, but I've got 8 sets. So, and that's almost the whole inventory right now. So it's pretty good, and they all got hot rod motors and different, tunings and stuff.
And you're going to let him run the non-magnet one and see how much he likes it.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing about that.
Well, we had a couple of the non-mag Ferraris, okay, F40s, okay, and inlines, but okay, and this one is a Sidewinder, okay, a similar sort of a setup, but I think I sort of discovered something with the one. It's kind of a Frankenstein car because I glued pieces and parts onto it, okay, and I had a 1 millimeter motor pod, and I think that was a key to it, okay, because it's really low because of that, okay, and it just all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, this is a beautiful car. So I think he'll like it. He's like, I can't hardly get him to go with a non-mag car. So
And maybe he still won't want to do it, but it sounds like you got that one set up pretty well. He'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I had an epiphany after I talked to you about racetracks, and I remember we were having that conversation about, then I thought, well, gee whiz, I'm going to have a different kind of a racetrack to race no mag cars, and you kind of told me to hit that I was stupid, and I started thinking about, well,
come on, I said it depends on what kind of racing you'd like, not what the magnets or non-magnets are.
No, but I mean, I was stupid in regards to the track that I have, and the fact that all I really have to do is figure out where the problems are and put borders on those particular turns, and it makes it into a no mag track. Okay, just like you said. Okay.
Yep, those were my words verbatim. Well, anyways, looking forward to hearing how your friend likes it and how the day goes tomorrow. We'll hear about that next week, I'm sure. Jeremy, it looks like you're ready to talk about something. What's going on? Oh, you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Okay, I've got one tip. It's for track builders. It's not really for your cars. When you have an Arduino board, it has tiny little pins that you got to try to fit wires into that come off. But you can buy these little riser boards that go on here. Let's see. And if I got this on the right side, and then the riser boards have where you can put the wire in and then screw it down in. So it's like for an extra $5-10, buy the extra riser boards if you're going to be working with Arduino boards. Second, I know you're, wow, exciting. Second tip.
That's a great tip. I was about to say that's a great tip.
If you go with the LED strips, you can cut them here at the lines there. They show you where to cut it, so you can do anything you want. But on these LED are these LED lights that are for race coordinator. The electricity only flows in one direction. Don't try to think you can put the power in on the other way, because it'll kill, and you'll spend a week screwing with that then. So
Yeah.
don't do that.
Fantastic. Great. Terrific. I was waiting to the end to applaud. That's all. Sorry.
No, that's a great
I
tip.
could go for 44 minutes if you want.
Doing the
No.
messing with Arduinos or you know, there's a variety of boards that are similar to that, with basically just a whole bunch of pins, and then you've got to get the little things that go down on the pins, or you're crimping and whatever. Those breakout, that basically that screw in terminal board makes it so it's easier to just do it with bare wire, not having to crimp on the little things that go onto the
You can just
pins.
put the bare wire in the screw there, and then it's still got the pins if you still need to do some more testing. It's got pins up here and screw ins there. So
Yeah, and you could just pull the whole thing off and put a different header board on
yeah,
there.
that's when I'm working on it down. It's easier to work on this than to try to work on this and fit it in there. So you just leave that mounted and then work on this part. So yeah.
Yeah, and those LED strips, they all have their own quirks, right? So you got to be careful about how you're cutting it, where you're soldering to, the polarity, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, both good tips. And that kind of segues into what I was going to say, or what I wanted to say is that when I ask for tips, I call them tip of the week, but don't think to yourself, oh God, these have to be like groundbreaking, mind-blowing ideas. No, it's a thing that you do that you might take for granted that other people do or know. But no, you don't know something until you know something. Don't assume that everybody else already knows that thing that you do to your car or whatever, because they might not. That's an absolutely worthy tip of the week. The more concise they are and easy to understand they are, the easier that people will learn it. But that doesn't mean it's got to be short and easy either, right? So if you want to go into, a 5-minute thing, that's cool. I talked about braids for just about 10 minutes. I didn't need to talk that long about braid setup for Sport Track. So, I'm asking you to think about doing a tip of the week. Don't have to, but it might just be something that you take for granted, something super simple, something you've seen posted somewhere else even, and say, hey, I learned this off of Jim's channel, or I learned this off of Dave's channel, or Travis's, or Cleve's channel, or whatever the case may be. And we'll link back to that channel. We could even find the video and link back to that video and share it. Or it's just something that you do that you take for granted. Those are all shareable things. So, let that roll around in your noggin, and maybe next week you'll have an idea for a tip of the week. So until we have more tips of the week, Dennis has his virtual hand up. What you got today, Dennis?
Excuse me. Yeah, I need education, please. Carrera Digital.
Huh?
Customer called in. He has one of those Frankenslot controllers, the wireless ones.
Okay.
He took it to his digital club. They set it up. Everything worked. He drove the car 4 or 5 laps, and then the car started stuttering and didn't want to go. Every other controller was, including other Frankenslot controllers, was worked fine. They changed the batteries. They did all kinds of things. They couldn't find an issue. Does anybody know anything about Frankenslot controllers?
I don't have a Frankenslot. One thing I do know that's quirky about Carrera Digital is that with wireless stuff, it gets even trickier, because presumably this club has other wired controllers that are already programmed to the same controller ID, or car, or however you want to call it. If he was chugging along, everything was fine, and then stopped and couldn't get it going again, my first thought, which is not necessarily correct, but my first thought is maybe the controller that he was using the place of got turned on, right? So let's say he's blue or number 1, or however you want to identify it. He's using that ID with that car, If the controller that used to be assigned to that same ID was just sitting on a shelf somewhere, which it would have to be in order for his controller to function properly, got bumped or fell off, or some kid grabbed it and started pushing on the plunger and what it got turned on, then there would be all sorts of confusion and things not working correctly. That's 9 times out of 10. When a wireless controller is not functioning the way you think it should be, it's because there's another wireless controller on that same channel.
Okay. I can get him to check that, but certainly I got the impression from what he was saying was that it was happening while he was driving, that after 3 or 4 laps, the car started doing silly things, and then they'd stop and then try it a little while later, and the car would go for 3 or 4 laps, and then it would start doing silly things.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering whether perhaps I didn't ask him what kind of car it was, whether it's drawing too much current, and the control unit is really what the problem is, or whether there was some other reason for it. But it certainly didn't sound. And my first impression or my first suggestion always is check the batteries, change the batteries, because if it works and then stops working, it's because the battery's going down.
Yeah.
But apparently not. They tried a couple of batteries, they tried a number of different things, and they could not get the thing to work. But anyway, thank you. I'll keep
I have
going.
a couple other thoughts, and you already
Okay.
hit on one of them. If the car is over motored and the chip is getting warm, and it would have problems, depending on how they have things set up, and how they're racing and how things are configured. And I saw this recently on one of the forums. Somebody had a very similar situation, and we were going through all these same issues. And it turned out that he was running an analog car on his tech slots thing,
Yeah.
which is a chipped lane.
Yeah.
And it had burned fuel. It was burning fuel. And so when a Carrera digital car or anything that's controlled by a Carrera digital chip thinks it's out of fuel, it starts to stutter. And so you have to refuel it. But you can't refuel an analog car. And, maybe by, other things maybe caused that to reset. And then he tried again and it had a full tank, did a few laps, and then it ran out of
okay.
fuel.
All right. Yeah.
That's one possibility.
It's another possibility. All right.
So I had the same problem, Dennis, on my Carrera track with the actual Carrera wireless controllers.
Uh-huh.
I was having the same problem, and I got so fed up that I actually put them aside and then plugged in, a wired controller, and it worked fine. But turns out, I put in power taps,
Uh-huh.
and that alleviated the problem. Now my wireless controllers never have a problem.
Okay. So
I don't know
there was-
why.
Where was
But-
so you have the control unit with the 2.4 gigahertz wireless, or you're using infrared wireless?
No, I have the dongle.
Okay,
The
so yeah.
2.4 gigahertz. Yes.
And the other thing is that there's interference can always be a thing. Like, I have wireless products that have interference in my house and others that don't have interference in my house. So that's always a possibility. I guess, we obviously would have questions for that person for additional troubleshooting. But if a standard Carrera wireless controller works for that same car, then, maybe the channel or, wireless is a complicated thing that I don't fully understand, but there's different channels on different frequencies that can you can have the same frequency but different channels and stuff like that. And maybe the
Right.
Frankenslot is using a channel that's getting more interference than the stock Carrera on the same frequency. It's test the Carrera controller, and if it works, then maybe there's something about the Frankenslot. But like you said, other Frankenslot controllers were working fine. So yeah, that's a toughie.
And like I said, my wireless from Carrera was doing that exact same thing.
Yeah.
It would go a couple laps, and then all of a sudden it was like my track was dirty, and it had dead spots. You know what I mean?
I
And
assume the controllers, do they each get their own channel? Like car 1 gets channel 2.4 whatever, and then 2.4.1. So I'm wondering if one other thing I was gonna say is that did they try to change channels just for giggles? And then, like Greg said, if somebody's running a microwave, that affects the 2.4 gigahertz channel spectrum. So
Yeah.
But it would affect all 2.4s if someone was running the microwave.
not
But there were
necessarily.
other guys
Not
running at the same
necessarily.
time.
Yeah. Like Jeremy was basically saying that there's 2.4, but then there's more
spectrum within that 2.4.
Yeah.
They-
So another example is the Scalextric Arc Pro and Arc Air use 2.4 gigahertz as well, and they have 6 controllers. So there's 6 different frequencies or channels within the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum that they use. But the base also has 2 dip switches, so it can actually use 4 different sets of 6 channels within that 2.45 or 5 whatever gigahertz spectrum because of situations like that. I don't know that the Carrera has that functionality, but that's basically why it was added to the Scalextric one, is because that happens sometimes. So being able to work around that is beneficial.
When you code if my understanding of 2.4 gigahertz control is correct, it's not another channel. Not the same way as the channels were that we used to use in radio control, where you had 75 megahertz and you had 75.550 and 75.575 and 75.605.
It is.
And I was under the impression that what was happening was that the pairing of the controller and the car set up a code that is sent on the 2.5 gigahertz carrier wave. And it's a separate code that goes to each car. So
There's that too.
But it's not actually frequency dependent.
There's that too.
Okay.
The only reason I say that it does different frequencies is because Slotted specifically state in their oxygen manual, describing how the system functions, is that the SCP3, the Slotted oxygen wireless system, uses frequency and channel hopping in order to make sure that it has a strong signal between car and controller,
and to ensure that it's a unique binding between each car and the controller.
The car is told which MAC address to listen for controls from, and the control is told which MAC address to listen for lap data from when the car transmits it. But there,
anyway,
when you have 20 or
right,
24 cars all sharing the same frequency, there's only so much data that can travel over that. I don't know.
That's why
Like
they use such a high frequency, so that you can transmit a lot more data.
So, Greg, have you ever put two SCPs on channel 7 and one car on channel 7 and tried to drive the car with both controllers?
I've not tried that, but I have driven 2 cars with one controller.
Yeah, the opposite thing, because I discovered that I can drive several cars with one controller on one frequency. I can set several cars to pair with that, and it doesn't matter which one of the cars I can put on the track. It's the same experiment, but I've never tried the opposite one, where you've got 2 controllers on the same frequency and the same cars. Whether or not, personally, I don't think they're actually paired. I don't think that car is only capable of listening to that one controller. I think if you unplug that controller, plug another one in on that same frequency, it will go.
It won't. And the reason I know that is because Slotted specifically created a cloning feature in their bootloader so that you could clone a controller, so that you could have 2 members with their own unique controllers driving the same car interchangeably, pretty much for the oxygen evidence. So in order to make multiple controllers control the same car, you have to go through a process where you basically make all of the controllers have the same MAC address.
I've got you, because I have seen that happen, where people walk up onto the rostrum with their own settings on their own controller.
Yeah.
And rather than hand the controller off to a different driver, they'll unplug and connect up another controller. So I have seen multiple controllers work in one car.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it needed that. I didn't know it needed that process.
It does need that process. I'm not sure how that. I'm not sure if there's also some kind of frequency, like they're using the same small number of frequencies or channels or however that works within the actual wireless spectrum.
Yeah.
But I know that that will only work if you clone a controller's MAC address from, you know, whichever your master one is to the other ones.
It's a shame we got away from Carrera there, but I agree. I think I think there's a potential for that to be a temperature problem.
Yeah.
Something that's occurring after 4 or 5 laps of use.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you all for your input. I appreciate it, and hopefully I can get back to the guy and find out what, you know, whether they solved it by now. I'll feedback what I find out.
Dennis, did they try using another controller to pair to that car and see if it did the same thing?
I didn't ask that specific question, Mike, but it sounded to me like they had done that.
Okay.
Because they were pretty sure that it was the controller that was causing the trouble.
I will readily admit that I've done things that I thought I've done things that I didn't do, and I did things that I didn't think I did, and I when trying to troubleshoot things, and it's like, did I do that or did I not do that? Did it work that way or did it not work that way? And then I have to start the whole process over again. So been there, done that on every system you can think of.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep, hopefully you get somewhere next time you talk to them. And so I don't see any virtual hands up, and it looks like I don't know, Mike, did you want to do a club corner thing? You were kind of talking about.
Oh, sure.
Sure. What the hey?
Well, we did another round of the magless, and it went over pretty well. I had an emergency chip install because I realized I had set the third car up and hadn't chipped it. And about 10 minutes before the race, I chipped the car. And of course, it screwed the handling up completely. So I ended up about 10 laps down as a result of that. But other than that, it went fine. So I'm setting up a set of GT3 cars now. I've got a slotted Ford GTE that I'm going to set up, and I've got a Porsche 911, the Portimao squirrely one that I've got. Anyway, it's the green and yellow paisley type livery on that, and I'm going to get a third one to try and do a set of GT3s. So we'll have a set of Can-Ams and a set of GT3s, and we're going to use those. And I also discovered today, Monday, that even if you set a lot of mag on Revo slots, those things are so heavy when you start flying around the track, man, there's carnage. I have serious repairs to be done, unfortunately. So I think the voltage is going to get turned down on those for that reason, because those things are 115 grams roughly. And when they fly off at speed, boy, they really start causing damage. So I'm going to have to.
What voltage were you running them on?
I ran them at stock voltage from Scalextric. So it's like 14 volts. Yeah. So that's got to change.
Or, you know, if you're chipping them, then turn the power down in the app.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, they're all chipped. I mean, there's no.
So you don't have to change the voltage.
Can you turn the power down on RCS individually? The only thing I saw is when you're doing fuel simulation, you can run the power down that way, but it doesn't do it across the board.
No, there's no global turn the power down for everybody. So you'd have to go in and set up, you know, different cars basically with a lower power setting with different fuel. If you're using fuel, you set up the, you know, lower power for all the fuel settings.
Okay.
Or if you're in that same screen off to the right, I think there's a, you know, power when not using fuel, you know, so you'd set that down, you know, because that's like default at 100%. So you'd set down to whatever you want your top, you know, full tank or.
It sounds like putting my my adjustable power base on is the secret in this one.
Well,
Makes it easy.
the easiest way is to set. I mean, it's got built-in throttle curves with upper power limits built in,
Right.
so you could just set it to the whatever .40 or whatever .50. So that's
Well,
the
the
easiest
problem,
way to do it.
yeah, the problem seemed to be, I did that on mine because the one that I had lost a magnet, and I had to glue it back on, and I didn't get the right magnet on there because it was the distance was too close. It was too close to the track. And as a result of that, I turned my power down, and it stops the overall power when you're at 100%, but the curve was really not that great. So I really think that I'll just adjust the power down for that particular setup. It would be simple to do.
Do you have a variable voltage power supply?
Yeah, I do.
So turn it
I
down.
just haven't hooked up to my car yet, or to my track yet, rather.
Hook it to your track, dude.
Yeah. Well, I use it for chewing wheels and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's in another place. So
Yeah.
I'm going to buy another power supply.
Yeah.
I'm just
You
gonna
can
do
you
that.
can you should be able to go as low as like 11 volts. I don't go much lower than 11 volts, but it'll still run okay on 11 volts. It's been a while since I powered my lane changers from a low voltage, but that's the main detriment to lower voltage is that the lane changes won't be quite so snappy.
Right.
But mine have been separately powered since the old days because the old power bases, didn't have
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways. But they'll function. The base will function at 11 volts. So anything above that, so you could definitely crank it down to, 13, 12 and see how you like it.
Right.
But you're right, because even when the voltage is like that, but you're basically just telling the chip to distribute the power differently, the feeling is not the same as turning the voltage down.
No.
Yeah, if you can do that, definitely give that a try.
Okay.
All righty.
Thanks.
Sure thing. Looks like we're running down on things to talk about. I did have a suggestion. Somebody was asking on recommendations or techniques or how-tos or whatever, and I'm sure there's some people in here who have an answer to this question. They're fairly new, and they commented on last week's video that they broke the guide holder on their Scalextric car. And how would one best go about repairing or replacing or whatevering to get that car back to functional condition? There's lots and lots of ways.
Build a new chassis.
The reason I'm laughing because I have been sitting here while we've been talking, doing exactly that on a Scalextric car.
All right, you're getting the spotlight, buddy.
Right?
Take it away, Dennis.
Unfortunately, it's done. This was the Scalextric's 4GT, and the guide holder had broken up the front. There's the little piece that's left. And what I did was I used a CG Slot Cars Carrera part. He calls it a Carrera guide adapter, bolt-in rear with guide, CGGA 08. It's like a $6 or $8 part, and it comes with a little molding, just like the B Novas used to be.
Okay.
Except that, Michael has one right in his hand there.
All right, hold on, let me spotlight there.
See Mike's one there. All right, so this one had two little ears on the top because it was made to bolt into a Carrera car. However, with a little bit of scraping in the hole on this Ford GT, I managed to get it to fit in there, and it comes with a guide, a really nice 3D printed guide that has a screw to hold it in, and it's a really easy conversion. I did it, as I say, I started it when this started, and an hour and 12 minutes into it, and it's done. And I've just been sitting here whittling at the hole and putting it in, getting it all lined up, and then I just glued it in with some super glue.
And that's for the sport guide, right? Not the old 2-pin thing. It's the first.
Yeah, this is for the Scalex Sport Guide, yes.
Now, can you put a sport guide in its place, or do you have to replace it with a standard guide?
I would not put a standard sport guide in there, no.
Okay.
I don't think it would fit.
Okay. That's
But
not
anyway,
a bad
I mean,
thing.
there it is. Yeah. So that was one of the things. CG slot cars have them. They have a couple of other little pieces. They have some bits that basically look not a lot different to the part that broke out there.
Yeah, like the original B Nova adapters.
Yeah, like those little adapters. They have a whole bunch of those as well that you can buy. I didn't like that because it's too small. Excuse me. You can't really put it together, but as Mike showed with the ones with the circle on them, they're really nice and strong. So yeah, there it is.
And he asked if there's 3D printed things, so maybe he has access to a 3D printer. And to that I say, yes, there are 3D printed versions of that exact thing.
Thingiverse, I think, yeah.
Thingiverse, yeah, I've put my own version up as well. You know, and of course, you know, seeing if you can find a replacement chassis and just moving all the parts from the chassis that has the broken guide to the new chassis. You know, with a Scalextric car, the chassis usually come with the front wheels already installed because they're not designed to be removed. So you might have mismatching front wheels if you don't get the same exact iteration of that particular model car, but you do have to make sure that you get the correct chassis for the car. Like, don't get a GT40 chassis if you have a Ford GT. Make sure you're getting the Ford GT chassis because it's completely different, right? Mustang is different from Camaro, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you're getting the exact correct model replacement chassis and hope for the best as far as the front wheels are concerned. But if that's, you know, if you get mismatching front wheels, you can always, you know, wrangle off the ones that came with the chassis and, you know, wrangle off the old ones and put them on the new chassis. Does anybody else have? I got some other ideas for guide mount repairs. Does anybody else want to offer up their idea for guide mount repair?
Keep going. I'm going to find the one that I've just done. Another one.
Okay, I want to see more pictures from Dennis. That's for sure. One of the other things that popped into my head that I saw guys doing along quite a bit. You know, I'm assuming that it's not just, you know, like you got the guide holders, kind of a triangular thing, and then you've got a round, and then the hole is in the middle, right, where the guide post goes through. Sometimes this piece just snaps off, and I've seen guys take a piece of flat metal, aluminum, and just kind of bend it around in the right shape, and, you know, basically add, you know, stiffness and bulk to hold that plastic piece in place, because it's just going to break off if you try to glue it back. So you got to do something to strengthen, you know, the old broken piece. But I've also seen guys just, you know, sometimes it's so damaged that you can't repair that, right? So you basically have to create an entirely new guide holder. And I've seen guys take, like, you know, 2 or 3 millimeter plastic, you know, styrene, and just cut a piece and put a hole in it, and then, you know, put a guide in there. And you know, there's lots of ways to do it. What do you got, Dennis?
I made this one earlier on today. It's a brass one. It's going in the front of an all-slot Formula One car. So it's sized so that it will fit right onto the front suspension detail of that car, and then just be glued down in place. But it's a little piece of brass that's been shaped to the shape of the wishbones, and fits around the little cutout at the back, fits around the area of the chassis that has some little wire conduits in it. And then the tube is just a little piece of machined brass that I use to do that. I soldered the two together and cleaned it up and polished it, and that's off to another customer.
There you go. I mean, when it comes down to it, you're basically trying to create another hole that's strong for the guide post to go in, that allows the guide to rotate, you know, 270 degrees from one maximum to the other maximum, or yeah,
not that much, I wouldn't think.
Not even necessarily that much. I mean, basically, I did a
160, like 80 degrees each way is maximum, I would have thought.
Yeah. Mike, did you have a suggestion for this? All right, let me.
Yeah, actually, I have a car that's been repaired like that. Can you see the two wings there? I took a piece of aluminum, 2 triangles, and glued it to the broken piece. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then epoxied it in. and it has lasted 5 years now, and had no problems at all doing that once it's reinforced that way. It adds about 3 grams of weight, but it's not a big deal.
And that's not a bad thing. A lot of times, a little
No,
bit of
not
weight.
on the
Often
front.
not.
So in that case, basically, it was the entire mount that had broken, not just the little C-shaped bit of plastic that creates the
Correct.
hole, right? The whole mount broke off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on what the actual damage is as to what the best
Sure.
way to repair it is.
And this was before I knew anything about the CG adapter. So
So you might have used the CG adapter.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier, if all you did was break the hole, so the big triangular piece is still there. There was a company called Nova that was making just the wedge and a new hole that you can glue down to the wedge shape that's still in your car, and then put a new guide, because you basically have a new hole being created by that adapter. And that was, fairly simple. You do need to use a new guide. So some of these solutions will allow you to use the old guide. Some of these solutions will require you to use a new guide.
It's got the B-Nova.
Those are the B-Novas, yeah. So that's exactly
Yep.
what I was talking about. What's that packaged? Micro?
That's the CG packaging.
that's
the CG packaging? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's 3 different thicknesses in there,
Yep.
and I use them to reinforce the Scalextrics one and to use a regular guide in them.
Yeah. Those are pretty much the easiest way to do a straight conversion from a Scalextric Sport guide to a more slotted type standard guide. I use one of those on my Pioneer car.
You want the address for the Thingiverse one?
Yeah, pop it in there.
Well, yep. Hang on. Where are we? Let's go back and get that.
Looks like we got Frank with his hand up too.
Oh no, this might be a bodgy one. This one.
Well, here's the picture.
Yeah,
This is
I think it's a bodgy one. It's from you.
Well, this is a picture that you shared in the chat. So that's
Yeah.
a 3D printed guide
Yep.
holder. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't think that was mine. I think that was somebody else's.
It's attached to your file.
But it's basically, just 2 rings. You make a hole. This
I've
is
never used that outer one. The center one's perfect for the one on the left there is perfect for Scalextric.
yeah. It depends on what kind of repairs you need to do, or what kind of car you're doing it to, and why. And yeah, there's a number of solutions depending on what the damage is, what your car is, what your goals are.
It's also good as a mod if you want to change it to a put a Ninko sprung guide or something into something else, and it's just easier instead of putting a brush sleeve through it. Just cut it, put that in, power light it in, away she goes.
Yep.
That prompts a question.
Okay.
Ninko sprung guides. And the question is, why?
Why?
Ninko's all about raid, right?
On rally tracks they come in handy. They're really handy on rally tracks, especially to keep the pressure down on the guide, because especially if you've got 4-wheel drive system working and things like that. But on a flat track where you have no indent, no bumps and all that, but it's absolutely perfect. Yeah, by all means, it's just a normal one.
The real question was not about the spring. The real question was about the Ninko guide. Because I don't know what, I've never quite understood it. I've seen other people, and Chris Walker's like that too. He uses the Ninko guides on a lot of cars. And I just have never been able to understand why anybody would put a Ninko guide on a car.
I'm having a hard time remembering what the guides look like. What's so terrible about
They're not much different. Well, there's like fly guides and other guides. They're shallow, they're short.
Okay.
They don't have a screw to hold them in, as far as I know.
No, they just clip straight in like the early Scalextric ones.
So unless
just
they
stick your
were,
handles.
unless the posts were a better fit inside a piece of tubing than other guides of the similar type, I really can't see why one would use them.
Not as an upgrade.
No, but that's me. Anyway, let's go.
Well, I'm running out of things to chat about. So does anybody have anything they want to? So
Frank has his hand up.
Yeah, Frank has his hand up. Yeah.
Oh,
But he has his sound off.
Oh,
Hello,
okay.
everybody.
Oh, he's got terrible
No video,
connection.
Frank.
I'm down
No
by the LA
video.
airport. That's probably why.
Okay, what's up?
I'm in fog right now.
Okay.
Hey,
That's what it is.
I wanted to report on Greg's tip of the week from last week about running the braids on a little bit of an angle toward the guide flag on Skelectric's track. I'm here at Big Lou's tonight, and I just did it flat and with the angle, and it just seemed like the angle just made it so much smoother and more power. So Greg's tip of the week worked out well for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad that it helped. You know, so far I haven't heard
Yes, it
anybody
does.
I haven't heard anybody tell me that it doesn't help, unless it just has no.
Right.
Unless they've already got good. You know, if the braids already have good connection, then they won't notice an improvement. But
It was worth the 10
No,
minutes.
it definitely helped. Thank you.
did you show the other guys, or gonna wait until they ask about it?
Hell no.
Yeah,
Hell no.
leave that one to
No
yourself for a
problem.
while longer.
At this track anyway. Now tomorrow or Saturday, we have a far out non-magnet race on a Skelectric's 4-lane track. So I'm going to test it on that track too. And if it works, I will share it there. Because the Far Out Club is a sharing club where the Big Lou's is Secret City. So forget these guys here.
Let them figure it out.
And it definitely helps on non-mag
Exactly.
as well. And you make sure you push it down nice and hard so you don't get any springy effect from it. But yeah,
Exactly.
bring it in tight and give it
I
a
noticed
twist.
that.
Usually helps. Awesome. Good
Thanks
to hear.
again, Greg.
You're very welcome, sir. I'm glad it helps. I was the week before this, so last week and a half ago, we were racing on one of the few remaining Skelectric sport tracks in our analog club. And one of the guys' cars, you know, he was like, you know, going deep and not getting the braking he was expecting. And I'm like, you know, you want me to do your braids for you? He's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, okay, that's your choice, dude. Your car's not performing the way you want. I'm looking at the braids. Hey, your choice. I'll be happy to let you crash in the corners and, you know, because you're not getting good braking. So I'll talk about more club stuff. You guys heard me
Exactly.
lamenting about the Pioneer Legends traction disappearing. It wasn't nearly as bad as on the wood track it wasn't nearly as bad on the sport track as it was on the wood track the previous week. So last week, traction dropped off, but in a more expected kind of way. So I'm like, okay, well, did I do anything differently this time, or is it just the track surface? Well, this past Monday, we raced on another routed track that was made by the same guy, so pretty much the same surface. And yeah, it's the track surface. I basically prepped my tires the same way, and by the end of the night, we were all on just ice. It was just ice. It was ridiculous. But some of the guys were not on ice. Their cars still had, you know, enough to get their car going and not be, you know, Tokyo drifting around every single corner. Speaking of which, one of the guys really knew how to keep his car just going rather than bing, 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 bing. You know how when you got no traction, it's just whipping back and forth. He was Tokyo drifting. It was impressive. And you might catch some of that in the video I uploaded yesterday. And there was a lot of discussion about, you know, tire prep. You know, what are you guys doing? What am I doing? You know, what are you doing? And apparently oiling the tires, not helpful. And it's basically, I mean, get a chemist in here because I still don't know, but the guys who were doing more oil prep on their tires were the ones who were experiencing that drop off. Sure, they had great traction early on, but it wasn't a straight line. It was a cliff. And the guys that were doing nothing but using the tire cleaner, which was basically lighter fluid, not oiling the tires, just using the tire cleaner, had okay grip at first and still had okay grip later. It went down, but not high and then a cliff. It was, good and then still okay.
Could the oil perhaps have, oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, could the oil perhaps have been attracting dust on the tires and then removing traction?
They don't look or feel that much different when we're starting. That's, certainly a possibility. And the other factor on this particular track, and I wouldn't really call this a factor so much because we've kind of talked about this before, and the previous wood track didn't allow silicone tires, but this particular track owner uses silicone tires. So the IROC set was silicone tires. So we practiced on rubber, and then we ran IROC with silicone, which, polished off whatever. And then, but when we were racing again, we started out with good grip, and then it drifted off. So I'm not going to blame the silicone tires, but if there was anything to pick up, the silicone tires would have picked it up. So maybe our oiling is wearing off, and the lighter fluid isn't, or something. I don't know. I just know I'm not going to oil my tires anymore, and hoping for the best. What was that?
What tires are you running?
These are the stock Pioneer tires, so we're not doing urethane or anything like that. So it's whatever rubber compound they come with. John, Mr. Underwood, I thought I heard your voice pipe in.
Yes. Are you allowed to take the tires between racing?
No, the club rules are basically whatever tire prep you do has to be done prior to the beginning of the race, and then you cannot do any cleaning or anything at all throughout the entire race night.
Right. So basically, when you come off, you skid across the track, don't you? And your tires go across the edge of the track, picking up all the dirt. Hence, no grip. If you oil your tires, you'll get them stickier, so they're more likely to pick the rubbish up. So bits of tire, bits of dust, bits of plastic will pick up. Whereas the guys that aren't oiling them, but are just using a bit of petrol, get that initial bite, because obviously the petrol initially softens the tire, but it wears off quite quickly. So hence, when they go off, they're not picking up so much muck because the tires aren't as sticky. Therefore, they can maintain a more average lap time, whereas the people with the stickier tires who keep going off pick up all the muck, hence all the tires.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Except there wasn't when we go off into the woods. Generally, we'll check. We're allowed to check the tires for debris, so debris gets removed. But even I know you're not talking about large pieces. You're talking about just the fine stuff. But most of the guys who had such great grip didn't come off the track. We were pulling fantastic laps and very consistently, and a crash was basically a rollover because we had so much great grip. Normally we would attribute it to stuff built up, but I think it's more chemical than debris. So
compounds don't always work together.
That's true.
There are instances where I had it on the blocking and I was following Matt, and I was getting a lot of pickup. I think I know what he's using in his tires. I think I know what tires they are, but Matt being Matt, he just asked.
Yeah, and we don't really know what we just know it's rubber of some sort. We know very little about whatever Pioneer makes. And one of the guys actually had an incident. He was oiling his tires like some of us were, and when he put his car on, it seemed okay at first, and then he had a crash, and then it was very jumpy when he drove the car after that crash. So we thought, okay, well, maybe the motor popped out or the axle popped out, or something went wrong. So he's examining the car and looking really closely and couldn't find anything. Everything was in place. Everything was rolling smoothly, and he couldn't figure it out. And later on, he came over to me and showed me what was happening. he had gotten a flashlight to try to see more, to see what was going on, and one of the tires had a bubble on it, which implies that that particular patch of rubber reacted differently or absorbed more oil than the rest of the tire, because there was a visible patch of bubble on the tire. So either the compound isn't consistent, or maybe he wasn't paying close attention to the density of the oil on his tire, and it dripped and made a little spot that it absorbed more. But he ended up having to replace that wheel.
Greg, it could also be an actual bubble in the tire itself,
which may have formed after oiling. I mean, it wasn't there.
Or in manufacture, perhaps?
Oh no, these tires were already glued and trued and performing fantastically on previous races. This bubble had formed since the prior race.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why he didn't, immediately assume, and he tried to sand it off, but he's like running out of time, and he had a spare in his box, so he just, pulled the spare and put it on his car. It still wasn't perfect, but just more oddities, more things to experiment with. All I know is I'm not going to put any more oil on my tires, and I'm going to hope for the best. Garth or Mike, did you have some suggestions for me, or do you want to?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you remember, but last week I said we were going to plan on stopping partway through to clean the tires because they would get a buildup. Well, I did not oil the tires this week, and I didn't get the buildup. The traction was not quite as good to start out with, but it was consistent throughout the race. So I suspect what's happening is it's softening the rubber at the start, and then it's picking up garbage from around the track. And then it will, the softening also will ball up the rubber. At least it does on, I've got slotted G25s, the newer ones that they came out with. And apparently they're soft enough that they will ball up just from cornering if you're not careful. Yeah. So that's one of the things there. I suspect that the oiling is doing that. So we stopped oiling them, and that took care of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're watching for, is that kind of stuff that happens with especially soft tires. But yeah, over oiling is appearing to be not beneficial for these tires. What about you, Garth?
I have a question about the videos. Was that Blair? That
was Blair's track. The video I uploaded yesterday was Blair's track.
Those tracks, this is kind of a track oiling question. I noticed that both of those tracks have, like dark patches all the way around the track. Okay. Do you guys do they ever clean those tracks?
Depends on whose track it is. That's usually referred to as the blue groove, and is basically deposits from tires running on the track.
Yeah, like rubbering in, right?
Yeah, it's rubbering in. That's what it means when you say a track is rubbering in. You can't see it so much on plastic, but it's happening on plastic too.
Yeah.
You'll see it on plastic track when the track is getting a lot of use on really, really soft tires. You're not going to see it with silicone tires. You're not going to really.
No, and I clean my track too, but I'm really asking a question about routed tracks. I mean, is it common to leave that groove in there? I know in Europe they use all kinds of weird oils and stuff, and the whole they make the track sticky. Okay,
And they do that in the States too.
They use glue.
Garth, even with our painted Carrera track, it'll have a groove. Yeah, the rubber will come off.
Yeah. So whether or not they clean it is up to the track owner, and usually they want that there. Usually that helps. Some tracks I've seen will get out the naphtha and clean it off because they don't want it there. They consider that to be detrimental, and that might depend. It's going to be. Sometimes the track has got an epoxy finish rather than just a latex paint finish.
Well, rubber would be good. Oil would be bad, probably, right? I mean,
you wouldn't put oil straight on the track, no.
I mean, but you're putting oil on your tires.
We're letting it soak in. We're not putting oily tires on the track.
Yeah, but
it's soaked into the rubber. It softens the rubber. It's not slippery anymore.
Yeah, but it's got to be depositing on
It
top
does.
of rubber, right? So
Yeah, that's how the blue.
You got-
That's how the
you
blue
got
groove gets there. It's
rubbery
rubber.
surface with oil in it, right? Kind of, you know, and dirt.
I'm sure a chemist could scrape a little bit off there and say that this is a certain percentage of various, you know, petroleum distillates of some sort. Yeah. Okay. It's not slippery though.
I was just curious about what people, you know, how you clean it or don't clean it. So.
Gary could probably talk about somebody cleaning their track.
Yeah, last time I talked about it, it's mainly just you don't clean it and scrub it to get rid of the racing line, but it's mainly just like a slightly damp cloth over the top of it to get the dust or anything like any impurities that are sort of laying around there. Then you just run the car up on a damp cloth with a little bit of liquid soap on it, say, for example, cleans the tires, and you just do a few laps and just clean the tires a few times after doing multiple laps, and eventually you'll get that line back again and you'll get the grip back again. And we use no chemicals whatsoever on the tracks, just straight rubber as they come. Just draw them up.
Dennis still on there?
Yeah, he's right there.
Dennis, I wondering what you use on your, I mean, do you clean your track? Because it looks clean all the time.
I have never ever tried to pick up any of the rubber that's down on there.
Okay.
I basically, when I prepare the track, I will use a shop vac, and then I'll use one of those little, and I'll vacuum the whole thing. I'll use one of those little California dusters, those little thingies with all the little red rat tails on it to pick up some more dust. I actually run cars with silicon tires on them around the track and then clean the tires basically to pick up the dust. But then if I really want traction for the day, I'll use some of my scratch-built 132nd scale cars that have foam tires on them, and I'll rub some suntan lotion into the foam tires so that they get really nice and soft, and drive those around, and that puts down a layer of rubber on the track, and then the regular rubber tires get great grip. But if you're running on silicone, then you need to keep it clean. And I would say then that a gloss finish on the track is better than a matte or a satin finish to get the real grip, and then keep it super clean.
Good.
Does that help?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you basically you did, because your track looked, in the photos I've seen of you, it looks like you just painted it.
Oh yeah, and it's 10 years old nearly now, and it's never been touched. Oh, you can see the line, but you know, I used a very specific kind of paint that not a lot of people use because of its expense, but to my mind, it was well worth it.
Is that the urethane modified acrylic?
That's the one.
And what company did you get it from?
You can buy it from, nowadays you can buy it on Amazon. It was in the old days made by a company called XIM, and they're now part of Rust-Oleum. So it's just called UMA. But the last time I needed to buy some, because in the old days you could only buy it in gallons. But the last time I'd looked, I bought a quart, and I got it on Amazon. And then I bought and it's only white. And then I bought one little bottle of black acrylic paint tint, put that into the quart of paint, and it comes out that gray.
Thanks.
And it's a really good paint. It works extremely well. And as I say, it doesn't show a great lot of line, but if you're here in person and you look, you could see the line. There's a definite groove on the track.
What I don't understand is when I've seen tracks with the blue groove, and the owner says they only run silicone. I've seen that. I'm like, oh wow, did you guys switch to silicone or whatever? And no, they've only ever run silicone. And I'm like, well, how did that blue groove get there? Because my understanding is that comes from running rubber tires. He's like, it's there. I'm like, okay. Anybody got an idea how you get a blue groove without ever running rubber tires?
I think part of it is that the silicon tires will polish the surface on the racing line. And so you get first of all, you get a visual or some kind of optical effect, a difference between the regular surface and the surface where everything runs. But maybe some of the tinting that's in the silicone to make it black eventually does work its way into the surface. I don't know. I've noticed a little bit of that when I first started racing because I ran only silicones on my track. And I did see a bit of a groove start to develop, but it's nothing like you get with rubber tires.
It'd probably take a lot more racing to get silicone.
Yeah, I think so.
That kind of makes sense. I mean, because it'll still wear, just not
It's
very
much slower, yeah.
And it's got pigment in it
Yeah.
in order to make it black.
Are you sure that the guys are running silicone and not maybe urethane that they think is silicone?
I made a point about it.
Okay.
I don't remember what track it was or who it was. Otherwise, I'd go dig it up. But I remember making a point about it, and they were like, "Nope, it's silicone only ever from the day one."
Yeah, because when I used to race in Connecticut, when I was up there years back, and I raced with guys in the club there, they run only silicone all the way around, and those tracks get used a lot. And not one of them had any kind of blue groove or racing line on them. They were clean. Bless you, Greg. They were clean.
Yeah. So depends on what you want. You know, you can, and like Chris said, you know, on a previous show, you know, rubber tires run great on a perfectly clean track. You know, silicone tires run great on perfectly clean track. So if you want to go through the trouble of cleaning your track, go for it. I'm lazy. I don't want to clean my track. Wayne, did you have input on this?
No, my hand is raised, but not for that reason.
Okay. Micah, do you have your hand raised for that or for something else?
Well, actually, I was going to mention the fact that on the 124th track that we're doing here, they clean it with naphtha all the time and then spray glue on it.
Yeah.
So
and that's mainly so that you don't get a buildup of old glue. Right?
Yeah, that's true. But if you run the cars on that perfectly clean track with the foam tires that they normally run, you got nothing. It's
yeah,
ice.
sure. That's because the foam uses it's a different way of getting traction. The glue is there to keep the pores it basically keeps the pores of the sponge open. And they get mechanical grip from that apart from the stickiness. But yeah. But if you run, I mean, I've been at races, at commercial races where they will clean the track completely and then put on cars with foam tires on them. And you just run and you clean the tires and you tape them and run. And eventually you build up a blue groove. You build it up pitch black, the same as you would with the glue on, but it just takes a lot longer. And that's what the Europeans do, and that's why they leave them like that.
Yeah, I don't like the variability of the glue because it can change from race to race.
And temperature-wise too.
Yeah.
The number of times we go to a race and the track is stuck in the morning and super loose in the afternoon because it's summertime and everything gets hot, or the other way around in the winter, it gets really cold in the afternoon, and then the car that you set up for a nice loose track in the morning is so stuck you can't get it around. Anyway, yeah, foam tires and glue on tracks is another completely separate subject. I mean, it's that bad that different compounds of foam tire respond completely differently to the glue on the track. Yeah,
that definitely will take more time than we have left. Wayne, do you got something for the last 10 minutes?
I don't know if it'll use all 10, but we can. I've got something.
All right, what you got?
You don't have to.
You don't have to, yeah.
I've got I went to a race meeting at the weekend along with John over there, John Underwood. We went to Rockingham to do another digital endurance race on the Rock Bull ring. And I've got some pictures here if you'd like to take a look with me. So you may have seen this before, but there is the Rock Bull ring circuit.
So sorry, Wayne, to interrupt, but how long is that track?
Do you know what? I don't know. John, do you have any idea?
It's 155 foot, I believe.
155 feet?
It was built for the Dennis will know, the World Championships.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
the wood track is in Isra.
if the wood track is Isra then it has to be at least 170, because it has to be 85 meters.
Yeah, well, it's basically, that's what it is. It's 8 laying underneath. Obviously, we just cover it with a bit of paper, and we laid the track.
It's a super cool idea to lay the HO tracks on top of the big tracks. I love it.
It's Ninko 32.
Oh, is that Ninko? So it's 32nd scale. I thought it was HO. Okay.
Can you zoom in a little bit or expand that picture?
Do you know what? I tried. I'm double pinching and all sorts of things. I've got some other pictures that might be. You see that?
Yeah, there you go.
You can see now the track and the borders and the fact that there's a car there's no barriers on the track. We like the cars to fall clear so that the other competitors can continue. But yeah, we run the plastic borders to help the outside lane. This is the track running in what we called dusk conditions, because with the full illumination on, with all these ceiling lights, it was daytime. We ran for 2 hours of the race like that, and then the lights, half the room of the lights went out, and it was dusk. And then we turned on the fairy lights that were on the extremities of the circuit here. And later in the race, after another 3 hours, we ran the final 3 hours in complete darkness, where they turned out the rest of the lights in the room. So it was called Petit Le Mans. It was 8 hour lane, oxygen digital. And it's the second time this year that we've actually done this. The first time was a 6 hour one. And this weekend was a stretched equivalent, a stretched version of it.
Cool.
That's
Wayne, sorry to interrupt. How many cars are running all at once on the track?
Well, this time there were 10.
Wow.
9.
Were there 9?
Yeah, there was 9.
There was 9.
There was a couple others that were meant to be.
I counted 9 drivers on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, wrong way. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 9.
Yeah. The system will actually run up to 20, John. But things like the big events, they tend to run up to 16. In case a channel drops, and you've got a couple of spares then. That's happened before.
So there were 9 teams of between 2 and 4 members in each team. And I don't know what the next picture is. If it's boredom, it's boredom. Yeah, this was the start grid for the race.
Is that your car, the Ford GT?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the red Ford GT, not far behind, is John Underwood's entry. So we have 2 categories of car. We actually have 3. We've got LMP1s, which are allowed to use the flat 6 motor with the hole in the can toward the rails. They tend to run in angle winder configuration. Then you've got Ford GT, you've got GT Le Mans, which are all the closed cockpit bodies. It's actually the largest class there on the day. And the car here on grid 3 was LMP2, which is an inline configuration car. We tend to find that the LMP1s can make a bit more downforce with the motor, with the hole down, whereas the LMP1, if you use the same motor, the flat 6, it has to have the hole up and it has to be in line. These cars, the GT cars, they tend to use the alternative motor, which is they have to use the alternative motor, which is the slotted MX-16 S-Can FC130 motor. And this was the grid at the start of the race. You can't actually make out all 10 cars, but I don't actually know what's going to come up next. And we're into the boredom photo squeeze. Now, would you like another closer look at the cars?
Ah, there we go.
So this is my Ford GT. It's essentially a Pro Speeds chassis with a slotted sidewinder motor pod.
Was that the one you were putting the lights in last week?
That's correct. That's the one I was working on last week. I've got undersides of all the cars. This was the LMP2 entry, which used the MX-16 in inline format. That was grid 3. This was John's Ford GT. Essentially the same layout as our car. This what car was this? Now I don't know who's entered this one. Sorry, John.
Demon.
Oh yeah, it was Demon Racing. Now last week Garth asked about the motor spaces, and they're being used in this instance here and here. Look.
Yep.
So we've got an MX-16 in angle winder. So this will be Alan Wilkinson's entry.
No, that's the Cure that Tamar brought over.
Oh, so this was the LMP1 car that was on pole, was it?
Yeah, that was a Rockingham car, but as I say, it was used by.
It was used by Rockingham team.
Before.
Yeah.
Is that tape on the motor?
Yes, it's a regulation. It's in an effort to prevent short circuits across the rails. Everyone's actually got something in the form of an isolator on the motor, even if it's just sellotape, which I actually used. There will be something on every car. In fact, you can see, look, somebody's used a piece of electrical tape there. That car was Garage 27, which is Nick Kerswell, who joins us in the chat.
Ford GT.
Another Ford GT, yeah, essentially the same. In fact, I think it is a Pro Speed chassis, isn't it? So it is the same as the one I entered.
Yeah, you can see the Wins livery from here.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was. And this is a scale auto, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what car was this one, John?
The Viper.
The Dodge Viper
North
from
Staff.
North Staffs Racing. That's right. I don't know if I've got any more of those. Oh, yeah. That's us. That's my team. I don't know what else I've got that's of interest. I've got a lot of photographs of the race control screen. I'll stop the share just there.
Nice. Thank you.
Where did we finish? Yeah, well, we gridded up on grid spot 2, which was really pleasing. It's a 90-minute qualifying session, and you just take the single fastest lap that any team manages to do. And we were really pleased with grid spot 2. We actually led the race. We didn't lead it in the very beginning, but by about an hour we were leading, and then they changed drivers to me. And by the time I got off the podium, we were no longer leading. We never got back to the lead. But at the end of the race, after the 8 hours, our team finished in 3rd place.
Pretty good.
We finished.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much. But we finished in 3rd place behind the race leader, who was John with the red Ford GT. So congratulations, John, with the.
Oh, wow.
How long were your stints?
Well, the stints are flexible. You can do them as long or as little as you like. And different drivers like to do different amounts. We actually used a strategy which used our best 2 drivers a little bit more than our less best drivers. Our smallest stint was a 1-hour stint, and the longest single stint that anyone did was 1 hour 15. Okay. But the guys that did 1 hour 15 stints normally did 2 of them in the race.
So during driver changes, did you actually have an official rule to pull into the pits, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that. Where were the magnets at on these cars? Because I was looking at the bottom of them.
No magnets.
Our club raced a what was called a endurance race this past weekend. And I hadn't been there. I hadn't raced my LMP cars, which are magnet cars. We have plastic track in our club. And it's at the Gilmore Car Museum, the world's largest automotive the world's largest historical automotive museum is the Gilmore Car Museum, which sits on 92 acres and has 14 different buildings, barns.
Okay, talk about the race, Phil.
Yeah. So anyway, in this facility, the track is a magnet track, and we had a LMP endurance race, but the stints were only 15 minutes. I was advocating for something longer, and I was just curious to hear what were the stints like here. So
how long was the total race time for that race?
Total race time was every driver only got 12 minutes per lane, and it's a rotation race. It's an analog track.
Yeah.
So you got 48 minutes of track time.
Yeah, endurance is relative. That would absolutely be an endurance for me. I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do anything like what Wayne was talking about. And those that was 8 hours. You had a 4-man team. So that means each man was more or less responsible for 2 hours of racing.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, thank you. And we're going to chat some more about this, but we're at the end of our 2 hours. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Just before you do, Greg,
yes, sir.
Can I mention that there is a video of about 5 minutes duration on my YouTube channel that gives them some background about that race?
Yeah, and put a link here in the chat. So I'm sure to put that in the video description for YouTube. And before we do the final sign off, I want to remind everybody, if you've watched this long, you're still watching right now, you would absolutely enjoy coming to a live chat. And the way that you find the link is by doing a Google search for Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom and ignore the video results. And you will find a link to here and you can join us. It's free. Come and join us, have some fun, and talk slot car chats with a bunch of other slot car nuts. Until then, we're going to wave bye-bye and we're going to turn off the recording. Bye.